Good Tuesday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the internal combustion engine age YouTube channel. Talks about the cars and trucks and SUVs, dogs, all the good stuff there, right? More than there. Thanks for tuning my channel. Appreciate all support and viewers. And first-time viewer, thank you for watching my morning conversation where I talk about the cars and trucks, and then I talk about the state of the time sometimes and all that good stuff. And wow, Tuesday morning here. Not too hot, not too cool. And wow, boy, oh boy, I tell you what. I was out in my shop last night till 8:30 working. Busy. I am just so busy. Wow. Oh my gosh. What are we doing today? I got the Freedom shirt on. I got the Home of the Brave. Free because of the brave. Home of the free because of the brave. So I thought to myself, freedom. Isn't it so cool that when you buy a motorcycle, if you're on a motorcycle, you'll totally get the freedom feel. I mean, I'm not lying. Anybody has a motorcycle, come on, Willow! There goes Willow. Is that dog number one biggest pain in the ass in the world? He is. Wow. So, freedom for the dogs to run amok themselves. And wow, got the Ford F-150 Lightning truck all set up to work out of today, and just slammed because I'm slammed because I got to get out of town to get back to Tennessee to get my Bronco. The part finally came in. Look at my bench, just a disaster. Even cleaned up the truck last night, the F-150 Lightning. The Bronco finally got the valve cover in, so apparently they're putting it. Come on, Will, let's go, get in here. They're finally getting the truck put back together, so I had to get down there and pick that up. And also, I've got the hunting to-do list of projects, and the list goes on. Pups, yeah, but if anybody here is a motorcycle owner, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to these motorcycles. That your freedom, you just feel so, come on, Pups, get him. You just have such the freedom when you get on these bikes. I mean, so many times I've gone on these motorcycles, and I just feel like I just want to keep on riding. I just want to keep on riding. I just want to turn around. I don't want to just drive west and just enjoy the freedom of my time being on this motorcycle that just gives you so much of that independent feeling. And whatever you want to do, I mean, that kind of, that's kind of starts to resonate from it. Choices here, the Hondas, the Harleys, the Indians, all that good stuff. So let's get upstairs here. And yeah, my Harley stickers and Indian stickers and Honda stickers. And all right, you ready, puppies? Get up here. Man, I'm kind of congested this morning. What's going on with that? I tell you what, hacking and coughing earlier. So back to the coffee. The tea made it worse. Isn't that something? Yeah, do I need my coffee this morning? Come on, Will, get out of the way, man. Jesus Christ, these dogs, they will end up tripping you up, hurting you, and everything else. So, off and hack this morning. It's my apologies, but man, maybe I've got allergies. I never have known myself to have allergies, but I don't think so, because it's just because, who knows? All I know is I'm congested this morning. That's for damn sure. So I get my little phone in there, and it's the same old story, trying to create content that gives people who watch my channel something to think about and hopefully radiate back to you the same ideas that you have that I have, or that I have that you have. That's the whole idea. So anyways, I thought to myself this morning, freedom. I thought, the cars, our country has been such a huge success in the automotive car world, motorcycle world, because of the freedom of you to buy the car you want to buy. And that's what I was thinking, wow, more than ever, that's changed. It's changing. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't the market been dictated by the consumers of what the manufacturers seem to bring to the market? I mean, I was reading an article about this early 70s muscle era, which was a very limited time because the government stepped in and put such the EPA guidelines on these high-performance cars. And so it was really the end of the muscle car era per se, because of the loss of power that the manufacturers couldn't squeeze out of these engines without breaking the EPA guidelines. And so in some ways, I guess that's the early beginnings of the governing bodies starting to kind of control the car market more so than prior. But I'm just not that deep into automotive history to get into all the governing bodies and the Ralph Naders and, all this other stuff. But Department of Transportation, so the freedom for us in this country has been the independence of you owning a car. I mean, you can talk to my father, who's 91 years old. You go back to his era in the 40s and 50s, the capability to buy a car and to have that was a huge accomplishment. And it wasn't as dominant as easy credit per se as it is today. It was challenging, just like it's always been challenging per se. But the point is, the cars, and especially the motorcycles, got my Harley hat on. That's what kind of drew the conversation this morning. It just gives you that incredible self-independence. And we all know that that's such a word now that's being frowned on, that you can't be independent. You need to be like the masses. But yet these motorcycles, for sure, just give you such incredible independence and freedom of feel when you ride one, because you're out there, you're out in the environment. You're totally riding down the road, and you're not protected from the cold or the heat. You're not protected from the rain. I mean, there's just so many things, but then you can see so many things around you as you ride the motorcycle that you don't really see per se in a car. So you're so much more in the environment. And just the sound of the motorcycle, and it's just a totally different way of moving down the road. And for anybody out there who hasn't ridden a motorcycle, I'll tell you what. I mean, if you think about it, if you've lived in this physical world and you never rode a motorcycle your whole life, wow, I think you missed out on something. Yeah. So, but I think to myself too that freedom, the freedom on my shirt. The manufacturers seem to have catered to the consumers to build and make things that the consumers wanted, and that drove their success model. But there were failure models too of the manufacturers making products like the Edsel. What was it? Henry Ford's son that built the Edsel that was a failure. So there's been like the Pontiac Aztec minivan or whatever. I mean, you can go through the list, the AMC Gremlin. You can go through the list of vehicles that weren't such the public's view of independence, of not being laughed at. Yeah, your independence was you bought that vehicle and people were giggling under their breath of who would buy that hideous looking thing. Yeah, who doesn't know those stories? The Yugo and so, but now, we seem to be more than ever involving manufacturing governing bodies that are creating vehicles that the consumers really aren't wanting. I mean, so it's totally opposite. I mean, we're going in our country more than ever. We're totally flipping on this freedom that we drove the market for products that people want and lined up in the masses to buy. I mean, years ago, Harley Davidson, back in the 90s and 2000, early 2000 years, you didn't even qualify to buy a Harley. You were lucky if the dealership even decided to allocate you to have a Harley Davidson. Yeah, for anybody that is not of age, yeah, that's the fact. I mean, back in the 90s and 2000 years, Harley Davidson couldn't make Harleys fast enough for the general public that wanted them. So you were on a waiting list. You didn't really get to choose your bike. You borderline to just take whatever they had available for you because there were so many people wanting the Harley Davidson product. And that was the market because it was a hot item. Now, things have changed. I mean, it's become much more, the manufacturing ramped up and then other manufacturers came to the market. So it's created a lot of competition. But at the same time, it's been the driving force of us motorcycle heads that want a motorcycle designed a certain way, and that's been the success for these brands that bring products to market that people want, because it's what we want, not what they want. I remember years ago, I participated in Harley Davidson's research and development. I'm not lying to you, about 4 or 5 years ago. It put us so much time. Harley Davidson was constantly, reaching out to me for my views and ideas, and they would just have so many pages of what you think about this style motorcycle and that motorcycle, and what they were doing is they were, looking for the electric motorcycle, the adventure motorcycle, the the non-touring, the sport bike. There was just so many variables of the power, and would you want airbags on the motorcycle? Would you want reverse capability? Just infinite of all these different features they could bring to the motorcycle, and blah 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 and everything else. So I was involved in that. But it was a thing that they reached out to me, and other people were involved in it too. But it took so much time. Eventually, I just didn't have time, and it's just there was no money. They weren't rewarding me, so I was like, I'm out. This is just way. It was 20, 30 minutes of reading literature and corresponding my input to what they should be the next product for Harley Davidson. Now think this through. Have you gotten a letter from Ford or General Motors or Toyota or any of the major brands out there that have asked your views of the electric vehicle? I mean, has anybody ever called you? Has anybody ever done a market research on your desires of your next vehicle, what you want? I mean, sincerely. So it seems like more than ever, the freedom of your lifestyle with owning these cars and these motorcycles, that is getting ready to change more than ever in the upcoming years, because of the governing bodies mandating and forcing these manufacturers to bring products to the marketplace that they feel are going to save the world. And for so many, they don't want all this technology. They don't want the spying. I mean, more than ever, a car spies on you. In the future, it'll even be worse. The future of your vehicle, electric vehicle, even the ICE vehicles, the technology in these vehicles with the black box, with the apps on your phone, my Ford Pass, I can remotely unlock and lock my vehicle. I can remotely start my vehicle. If I can do all that, don't you know that Ford is watching me do everything else? So there's so many people, I guarantee you're like, yeah, my freedoms are being taken away once you get in that vehicle because I'm being monitored. I'm being tracked on everything I do. Who doesn't drive down these stupid ass roads? In Montgomery County, Maryland, it's the worst. They have all these freaking speed cameras, red light cameras, blah, blah, blah. It's all over the place. And I tell my daughter, it's discrimination. Because for the rich people in Montgomery County, they have these cameras everywhere. Now, when you go over to PG County, the demographic market, they're not as rich. They don't have these cameras. Well, why is that? Oh, I wonder why. Because the government's saying, well, the people that are more blue collar in PG County, they can't afford these stupid ass $50, $100, $200 tickets being taken by a camera. But in Montgomery County, people are so freaking rich, these people can pay the bill. Just like DC, the same thing. It's borderline illegal. It's not even, it's an independent company. It's not even the state. It's an independent company. It's making a ton of money off of snapping pictures of you going through the local streets. And then once you get out of those areas, people just haul butt anyways. I mean, I'm like, has it really cut down the crashes per se? I doubt it. Because people are oblivious to those cameras anyways. That's how they make their living. People run through these neighborhoods at high speeds, and that's how they make their money. So it doesn't really doesn't slow down that people think they have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. So the 1970s era of the muscle car era, the freedom of you from the 60s of having a really badass, incredibly powerful car, who didn't watch that change? I mean, I was just a kid. But I witnessed it. I watched all these cars go from being 300, 400 horsepower cars to 100, 100 plus horsepower cars. Yeah, was it embarrassing and then the looks of the cars moves. The 70s and the 80s of the car era, borderline just in, I'm talking about the mid 70s. I would say after 73, 74 on through the 80s in so many aspects. The car industry, truck industry, it was just borderline like embarrassing of what the automotive manufacturers are building. And think this through. It was because the government was getting their hands in the business more than ever. I could be wrong on that. Maybe watch my channel, it's more in depth on that. The governing bodies were really hammering the heck out of the EPA standards. And where are we today? Here we are. The Environmental Protection Agency is all back up big time in the automotive industry, dictating what you can and can't do if you're a manufacturer. And even like I was mentioning yesterday, it doesn't even, it goes another step. It goes to the green agenda. So not only is the Environmental Protection Agency a powerhouse, but even more of a powerhouse today is the green agenda activists that are manhandling these major manufacturers and corporations and the boardroom and the stockholders, and they're suing these executives of these major companies that won't cater toe heel to their policies. And Toyota, the grandson of Toyota, he stepped down because he was being sued. They didn't like him because he didn't want to bend to their agendas. So more than ever, our freedom, we're witnessing more than ever our freedom of our passion for these cars and trucks is being taken away from us. Yeah, I mean, it isn't happening tomorrow morning, but as time progresses, it is. As you just all know that where everything's going with this green agenda, it's the never-ending just belittling and little, nitpicking here and nitpicking there. And if the green agenda people just don't feel like they're accomplishing what they want to accomplish, they're just going to attack another, aspect of what you're doing. It'll totally go to you can't recharge your car on a regular basis. It'll go to you're creating too much strain on the grid of the system. So we see on how you just drive around your car. Okay, I just can't wait to hear this story. That a person's going to get an email from their Ford Pass. It's going to say, you've been driving your Mustang Mach-E, which doesn't look like you're really going anywhere. You're just driving the car around. Can you? I can't wait to hear this story. I mean, I think it's years down the road, but I can about guarantee it that they'll get this email agenda that you're wasting energy of just driving around to drive around. That you shouldn't do that. Oh my gosh. Wow. I think to myself, and this gets personal, and I get that, and I'm just not into attacking others. That is not who I am. But I think to myself, the green agenda is going after the automotive industry like never seen before. It's going after the manufacturing industry like never seen before. And they are going after the cows over there in Netherlands. They're getting ready to maybe kill 200,000 cows. So, and underlying message that is that you need to eat differently. And I think to myself, wow, the freedom of us in this country, for the most part, gives us the rights to get out of bed in the morning and go take your walk or ride your bicycle or drive your motorcycle or sit at home or whatever it may be. But I think to myself, boy, oh boy, how much energy is wasted in our country of the people that just eat to eat. I mean, yeah, and here's the thing. I am not here to be the person to critique people's lifestyles. But we are at the biggest obesity in this country ever. The amount of energy that's being used and consumed to feed us, and I'm no one here to, brag about being, Mr. Fit, but I'm just saying that it's incredible where we are in today's society, and it's such a focal point of the ice age and our fun and passion, but at the same time, the amount of food that is processed in our country for people just to eat to eat. I mean, do you eat to live, or do you live to eat? That's the running, statement. Or that's huge. And sadly, a lot of people just live to eat, and that's created a whole other variable. But once again, that gets deep and it gets personal and it gets people irritated. But what's the green agenda calling out? They're calling us out now that do that. And so there's a whole nother agenda after they get the Ice Age agenda put to bed. That's their goal. Once they can show by 2030 or so that 80% of the cars manufactured are electric vehicles, the Ice Age is down to the last few days. That's why I call it Ice Age TV. It's like the Ice Age, the dinosaurs. They'll be then, touting and to get focused on every. I mean, I think most people here are right on the same page. Everybody sees the little steps: step 1, step 2, step 3. So it all goes back to our freedom. But at the same time, I think to myself, in our country, we have a country still, for the most part, that gives us our freedoms. For the most part, I mean, we do live in a free society. But at the other end of the spectrum, the freedom of doing what the hell you want in malicious and devious ways is through the roof. Meaning that people more than ever go steal goods out of stores. They have the freedom to go steal, and they don't get any punishment for that. People have the freedom to go beat the crap out of somebody, and to some degrees, in some instances, I guess they don't have any consequences. It's not like that's anything new. The people that are coming here to our country, their perspective to our country is you're free to come here whenever you want, and it's all good. And then there's freebies that are included in you coming in to the country for your freedom, right? I mean, more than ever is that kind of the message that we're portraying to the world. If we look at Ukraine and Russia, it seems like Ukraine's position is they've got the freedom to do whatever the hell they want, and the world bodies will dish out money like never seen before for them to continue to freely do whatever they want. Now there's a major dam that's apparently been bombed by either one of Russia or Ukraine. They're both pointing the fingers, and now they're claiming it could maybe have nuclear consequences, so a nuclear plant, within that region, and people are now maybe going to have flooding and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. Is anybody? I wish I would have made a YouTube channel just pounding my fists that for anybody to think that we're not going to be involved in this Russia-Ukraine war, when Russia was threatening Ukraine, and I was preaching, why don't all the European bodies and everybody line up and tell this guy Putin, you're not going to win this war because you're going to involve all of us in the end. You're gonna force a hand where all your other European sanctions and bodies are going to get involved, and you're going to end up being why didn't somebody raise their hand and just hammer the heck out of Putin and say, look, we're all going to be in the war, and that's the whole point is why didn't more leaders just stand up and just tell him, no, you can't do this, because if you do, then we're just going to go to war with you right now. And then if everybody would have really taken that position and had a lot of governing bodies in the world telling him that we're going to go to war against you if you go into Ukraine, I mean, it gets too deep and complicated, but at the same time, yeah, what are we doing? Yeah, right. Wow. Yeah, the home of the free because of the brave. I mean, how many military people here haven't gone and serviced and sacrificed their lives for just that statement, but yet more than ever they're witnessing the times of our country that seem to be wanting to change that. I mean, what's going to be the future cup? Is it going to say home of the free because of the brave, or is it going to say home of the fear because of the fear? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like, wow. I mean, does anybody else here just really feel like we're living in times where you're being questioned more than ever of your per se freedoms in certain aspects and ways? And what I mean by that is your views and ideas are challenged by others that you just years ago are like, who would even question these views or ideas? I mean, sincerely, does anybody here just kind of just sometimes scratch your head and think, wow, if I say this or that, I may be called out. I'll be shamed. Yeah, if I oppose the electric vehicles, then in so many ways, in a certain neighborhood, in certain areas, are people to think that I'm just a really not a very good person. Yeah, I mean, do you think that's? I've heard these stories. I've heard these stories on car forums where the guy has a Hellcat Charger that starts it up in his neighborhood. All the greeny, neighbors are all just frowning and looking at the person like, what a disgrace, what a disgusting. That thing's ridiculous. You should be driving an electric vehicle. You're a disgrace to the neighborhood and the community. Wow. Yeah. You mean HOAs? I feel sorry for anybody who lives in an HOA. I don't qualify. There's no way. For all the things that I have and I do, you kidding me? Yeah, right. Yeah, talk about freedom restriction. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people watching my channel be like, oh, yeah, it's beyond believable. It's the communist community. Yeah, who hasn't heard those stories before? I can share that story with you all day long down there in Florida of me parking a truck in my dad's driveway that gets the freaking neighbors all bent out of shape and starts filing complaints against my parents for parking a beautiful truck in the driveway. While the neighbor up the street has this piece of crap looking old car that's a disgrace to the neighborhood, and since it's a car, it doesn't get called out. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh, the freedom. And then the freedom of people to remotely work. Is anybody really following what's going on? So here's a very interesting story I read this morning, which is very concerning. The real estate, and I'm not a commercial real estate person, so it's interesting to read these articles. And, it can always be the fake news, but I would take this to be true. The commercial real estate market's getting killed by the remote working and the infrastructure of people driving to work. And the article talks about the commercial lending is at its highest rate ever of loans that are interest-only loans. So when these people buy these expensive commercial properties, they take out interest-only loans with a balloon payment at the end. With the thought process, if you buy a property and you have it for 5 to 10 years, the odds are in the commercial, building industry is for, usually if you paid, let's just say simple number, $1 million for it, then the odds are you maybe sell it for $1.5 million or $2 million down the road because of the appreciating, not depreciating, appreciating value of the properties. So people are paying just interest-only loans. Well, apparently 81% of the new loans today that carry these commercial buildings and properties that are job-related companies that rent these, it's at its highest level ever. And with the rising interest rates, it's killing these landlords that hold these notes on these, or the landlords that pay the notes on these buildings, and the banks are getting very nervous because a lot of these landlords are just turning the keys in and walking away because they know when the balloon payment comes, it's not going to work out because they have paid down no principal in the building, and a building that was worth, let's just say, $1 million is now worth maybe $500,000 or $700,000. So the landlords will be on the hook for the difference in the sale of the property because they can't carry it. So they're just walking away to go fight the bank in the end, maybe get the bank to reduce the price of the loan. I mean, so huge losses, per se. They say in the next 3 years, a lot of these commercial properties with the present times, and once again, does remote working change next 3 years? Does the employers really force the hand? Well, I really think the freedom of these remote workers are going to pound their fists and no. We are not going back. We don't need to. The infrastructure of the technology today more than ever gives us the freedom to work at home. And sure, we can come in a day or two out of the week, maybe 3, but for the big employers, they don't need the amount of office space they used to, so it's being a huge hit to the commercial building industry. So it's really interesting for us. Are we going to witness a huge it's what's interesting here is this is going to be the opposite of the 2008 real estate residential market collapse, that here in the next 2 to 3 years the massive collapse of the commercial building industry is going to be a huge collapse. And the, what's going to play out from that on the banks, these local banks and other banks have all these notes in these properties are going to be going broke left and right. I mean, definitely interesting times. And once again, that goes back to the freedom of your work style. And who more than ever doesn't feel like with today's technology, it does give you more freedom. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge thing that has happened. And I mean, I think it's a good thing in so many ways. I think it's a balance. I mean, for me, I think it would be appropriate for if you have remote working. You know, it's everybody has their own variables. It's infinite. But the whole point is, I guarantee a lot of people would say that they feel like they have more freedom having remote working. And I think I would be on that page all day long because you have more time to manage your time instead of sitting behind the wheel of a car all day long. Hey, ask me how I know. But I live in around here, oh my gosh, the roads are getting so busy. So yeah, it's changing around this area. So even part of me is like, this remote working, are more employers really starting to force the hand where people do have to go in 2-3 days a week? I mean, this Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area, the traffic definitely is back. All right, everybody. Hey, I just thought I would talk about the freedom of owning a motorcycle, what you get out of owning a motorcycle. It's the Harley conversations. I just bought a Harley. That's a really cool bike I bought. Even I think, yeah, right. The Street Glide red one was really cool, but that Fast Johnny really is just a really cool bike. And for me in my life, I can only keep some of these really cool things. That'd be really cool in all reality, because I just think as time progresses, I don't know. I mean, our freedoms are being, I would say, controlled more. I guess that's what you could possibly say. And it gets deeper than that. But anyways, really busy day. I got to wrap it up. I got to get the hell out of here. I just got so many things going on. And as always, I really appreciate everybody watching my channel and the nice comments and support. And I hope everybody has a really nice day. And as always, God bless, stay safe, stay tuned. What am I doing next?